I moved into the building 6 months ago. It was nothing special, just an old brick apartment complex with creaky floors and thin walls. The kind of place where you hear muffled conversations through the vents and the pipes groan late at night. It wasn't perfect, but it was home. Every morning, as I left for work, I developed an odd little routine. The old woman in 3B would be sitting at her window, peering out at the street below. She always wore the same thing, a faded blue cardigan and round glasses that made her eyes look too large for her face. Her hair, wispy and white, was usually pinned back. She would always wave at me. At first, I waved back out of politeness. Just a quick flick of the wrist before I headed to the bus stop. But as time passed, it became a habit. Some days, I even looked forward to it. Her small wave, the faintest hint of a smile. We never spoke. I didn't even know her name. Then, one morning, everything changed. I stepped outside, bag slung over my shoulder, and glanced up as usual. But this time, she didn't wave. She was sitting in her usual spot by the window, but she wasn't moving. She just stared. Her eyes locked onto mine, unblinking, her face expressionless. I hesitated, unsure of what to do. Maybe she wasn't feeling well? Maybe she didn't recognize me? I gave a small, awkward wave anyway. Nothing. A shiver crept up my spine. I turned away, forcing myself to dismiss the uneasy feeling that settled in my gut. But as I walked toward the bus stop, I had the strongest sensation that she was still watching me. That afternoon, I ran into my landlord in the hallway, a middle-aged guy with tired eyes and a tendency to overcharge for everything. I mentioned the woman in 3B, describing her as best I could. His brows furrowed. "What are you talking about?" "The woman in 3B, the one at the window every morning," I said. He stared at me, confused. "No one lives in 3B. I laughed, thinking he was joking. "Come on. The old lady with the white hair, she waves at me all the time." His face darkened. "That sounds like Mrs. Dawson." He hesitated. "She lived there for years, but she passed away last fall." I felt the blood drain from my face. "No," I said, shaking my head. "That's impossible. I see her every morning." The landlord's expression was serious now. "Apartment 3B has been empty since she died. No one's been in there. Not legally, anyway." A sick feeling settled in my stomach. My mouth was dry. My thoughts tangled together. That night, I barely slept. Every sound in my apartment felt louder. Every shadow seemed longer. The next morning, I hesitated before stepping outside. A part of me didn't want to look, but I did. I don't know why. I just did. And there she was, sitting at the window,